You clock the stiffness in someone's smile before they finish saying they're fine. You catch the half-second delay before a friend answers a simple question, and you already know the real answer isn't the one they're about to give. You walk into a room, and before anyone says a word, you already know, who's annoyed, who's faking it, and who's about to leave early. Everyone else in that room is just having a normal day. You're running a full diagnostic on it. And here's what nobody tells you about this. It's not a personality quirk. It's not you being dramatic. There's an actual reason your brain does this, and a very specific reason it refuses to stop, even when it's draining you dry. Today, we're going to break down exactly why some people are built to notice everything, where that wiring actually comes from, and the real psychological reason you can't just switch it off, even when every well-meaning person in your life tells you to relax. And near the end, there's a piece of this that most people never hear. The actual mechanism behind why just stop overthinking it has never once worked on you. Once you hear it, a lot of your exhaustion is going to make a lot more sense. Here's the part that trips most people up. This trait gets called a gift. People say you're intuitive, perceptive, emotionally intelligent. But psychology tells a different story. What looks like a gift from the outside is often quietly running your nervous system into the ground from the inside. And the strange part is, the people living with it are usually the last ones to realize it's happening. There are two very different roads that lead to this exact same brain. Road 1 is wiring you were born with. Researchers studying pattern recognition have found that some brains simply come online with a sharper filter for inconsistency. It's not overthinking. It's fast, automatic detection. Somebody says, "I'm doing great," and your brain has already flagged the mismatch between their words and their face before you've even consciously registered it. Road 2 is wiring you built. This one starts in childhood, in homes where things felt unpredictable. Maybe a parent's mood could shift without warning. Maybe a small mistake got a reaction way bigger than it should have. A child in that environment learns something very logical, very fast. If I can predict what's coming, I can protect myself from it. So the brain starts scanning constantly, not out of curiosity, but out of survival. Two completely different starting points. Same result. A mind that never fully clocks out. Think of someone like Ryan. Ryan is the guy in every friend group who somehow always knows when something's wrong before anyone says it out loud. Last month, one of his co-workers, Dana, said everything was fine in the team meeting. Ryan caught it instantly. The tightness around her eyes, the half-second pause before she answered a simple question, her arms folding just slightly tighter than usual. He didn't say anything. He just filed it away, the way he files everything away. 3 days later, Dana quietly mentioned she was going through a rough breakup. Ryan wasn't surprised. He'd known since the meeting. He just never had permission to say it out loud. That's the trade Ryan makes constantly. He sees the truth early and then has to sit on it, smile politely, and act like he has no idea, because society doesn't really make room for "I already know." The first thing this shows up as is what feels like reading subtitles before the scene even plays. You ask someone a simple question, "Want to grab lunch this weekend?" And before they even open their mouth, you already know the answer. You caught the shoulders tightening, the eyes flicking down for a split second, the breath that came in just slightly off rhythm. The subtitle already appeared in your head. They're going to say no, but you can't say that out loud, so you stand there for the next 10 seconds, nodding along politely while they finish performing a version of the rejection you already saw coming. The second sign is absorbing emotional, secondhand smoke. You get into an elevator with two co-workers. Nobody says a word. Everyone's on their phone. On the surface, it's silent, but you catch the tight jaw on the person next to you, the too controlled breathing behind you, the tension sitting in the air between two people who clearly had a disagreement earlier. The doors open, everyone walks off, and somehow your chest feels heavier than it did 60 seconds ago. You weren't part of whatever happened between them. You just breathed it in anyway. The third sign is being the one who smells the smoke before anyone else sees the fire. You notice a friendship starting to rot from the way two people's tone shifts when they talk about each other. You clock the charm of someone new joining your circle just a little too fast, a little too smooth to be fully real. You say something, you mention it gently to someone you trust, and because they haven't seen what you've seen yet, you get the label instead. Too suspicious, too sensitive, reading into things. Then months later, it plays out exactly the way you said it would, and somehow you're still the one who has to pretend you're surprised. The fourth sign is turning into whatever shape the room needs you to be. Around someone quiet, your energy drops to match. Around someone loud, you turn the volume up. Before texting someone you're not fully sure of, you type, delete, retype, checking every word for anything that could be misread. This is Ryan again. Ryan has become so fluent in reading rooms that he's forgotten what his own baseline even feels like. He knows exactly how to make everyone else comfortable. He just quietly stopped checking in on what makes him comfortable a long time ago. The fifth sign is the crash that shows up after a completely normal day. You spend 4 hours with friends. Nothing dramatic happens. No arguments. No tension. But the second you get home and close the door, something in you just goes blank. You don't want to talk, scroll, shower, or respond to a single message. You just sit there in the dark for half an hour. Nobody around you understands why, because nothing happened. But your brain isn't sad. It's just finally trying to clear out everything it recorded without your permission all day. Every micro expression, every shift in tone, every small thing you weren't supposed to notice, but did anyway. Here's the part that actually hurts the most, and it's not the noticing itself. Ryan knows exactly when Dana needs space and when she needs a check-in text. He remembers which coworker had a hard week and quietly covers for them without being asked. He's become the person everyone assumes is fine, because he's always the one making sure everyone else is fine first. But nobody's doing that for Ryan. Nobody's reading his shift in tone. Nobody's catching the half-second pause when he says he's okay. His loneliness was never about being physically alone. It's about standing in a full room, seeing straight into everyone else, and realizing not one person in it is looking back at him the same way. Now here's the part almost nobody explains, and it's the actual reason just stop overthinking it has never once worked on you. Your brain releases a small hit of dopamine every time it's actively problem solving, even when the problem is completely imagined. So when you replay a conversation, scan a room, or run through every possible reason someone seemed off, your brain isn't just anxiously spiraling. Part of it is being quietly rewarded for the act of analyzing itself, whether or not you ever land on an answer. That's why telling someone like Ryan to simply relax doesn't work. It's not a willpower problem. His brain is chemically motivated to keep scanning because the scanning itself feels productive, even when it's actually just looping. This is also why the fix was never going to be noticing less. You can't ask a mind built to detect patterns to suddenly stop detecting them. And the real fix is changing what you do with what you notice, not shutting off the noticing itself. The first shift is separating noticing from fixing. When you clock that someone's off, you don't have to immediately jump in and manage it. You're allowed to simply register it, okay, they're having a hard time, and let that be the complete thought instead of the opening line of a rescue mission. The second shift is accepting that some things were never yours to carry. Ryan saw the friend group's new addition was off long before anyone else did. He said something once. After that, it wasn't his job to keep collecting evidence or convince anyone. Some lessons only land when people walk through them themselves. And that's allowed to be true, even when you saw it coming. Neither of these turns the noticing off. It just stops the noticing from draining every ounce of you before anyone else even catches up. So if you've spent years catching what everyone else misses, here's what's actually true. You're not overthinking. Your brain is either wired from birth to catch inconsistency fast, or it built that skill early to keep you safe. Either way, it's not broken, and it's not a flaw you need to apologize for. The exhaustion was never about seeing too much. It was about carrying all of it alone, with no framework for what to do with it. Now you have one. If this described you, or someone you know, that alone tells you something. You're not too sensitive, and you're not imagining things. You just see the world with a little more resolution than most people do. If this video gave you some clarity today, consider subscribing to the channel. It genuinely helps this content reach more people who need to hear it, and it means a lot to have you here. In the next video, we're going deeper into what happens when this trait gets pushed even further, when noticing everything turns into never fully trusting anyone, and what actually helps rebuild that trust. Thank you for staying until the very end. See you again in the next video.